So now let's talk a little bit about the lineage of folk songs, folk music, and how this ends up connecting to the contemporary folk practices and the old time music practices that Thomas Torino talks about in the textbook. Like I started off the beginning of this lecture with, so many of these contemporary practices link all the way back to the 17th century, the 1600s, and the colonial period, when all of these different cultural groups and immigration groups and colonist groups were coming to the United States and settling. So something that was really popular were ballads, and specifically narrative ballads, which were essentially storytelling in song form. And so these were really popular in European countries, especially immigrants from the British Isles like Scotland, Ireland. And they brought these particular songs and narrative ballads onto the United States shore, the colonies at the time, right? And so the balladeer, they were a storyteller. They were telling everyday stories about their lives and their experiences, their hardships, right? Immigrating to a new country. And so many of these stories are very linear. It's not the same as popular music today, where it's kind of like you have your verses that tell the basic story of the song, and then a chorus that keeps coming back as that like main earworm we listen to all the time. These stories are straight up like, I woke up this morning, I came across a farmer and a dog, and the dog told me a funny joke, and the joke was great, and I thought about it as I ate my lunch, and then I went to work. It's usually this progression of something that happens over time. And what's interesting is that most music follows some sort of poetic form. So usually if you're really into poetry, it's very easy to get into music. These ballads are a really accessible way to connect poetry and music, because they're often in strophic form, meaning that you have different words that are set to the same music. And then these stanzas, the grouping of words, are usually in the same form every time. They have a similar rhyming pattern or just a similar word pattern. So let me play you a really popular one called Barbary Allen, also sometimes called Barbara Allen. And this is probably one of the most performed and most recorded narrative ballads. And this was originally a Scottish song from 1666. So, you know, really representing this time period I was just talking about, of this settler colonial period on the colonies or the United States in its early form. And so just listen to that constant strophic form I was just talking about, having essentially the same lyrical structure happen section after section in the music, but this continuous story. And what's really interesting about this song and folk songs in general is that the melodies are usually very simple, so any person can sing them. And then they're usually really, the rhythms and the structure of the song is usually very fluid and open, right? You don't have to sing it to a particular tempo, and you can kind of improvise a little bit and put your own personal touch. So let's listen to a little bit of this recording by Jean Ritchie, because she has this very like pure and high voice, and it's uncluttered by any other instruments. You can really hear the story that's being told. So we'll listen to a little bit of it.
All in the merry month of May, when the green buds they were swelling, young William Green on his deathbed lay, for the love of Barbary Allen. He sent his servant to the town, to the place where she was dwelling, saying, Master's sick and he sends for you, if your name be Barbary
So hopefully by now you can hear the pattern. I can't sing, so this may be horrible, but ba da 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 da. Right? She keeps following that pattern. You're hearing the strophic form in that case, right? That same constant pattern, just different words. So I'll play a little bit more, and I just want you to listen out for that particular melodic pattern, right? It's like a contour almost. She goes up and then comes down, and then she does this kind of jumping motion, right? Da 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 da, right? So let's take a listen.
And slowly she came anigh him, and all she said when she got there, young man, I believe you're dying. Oh yes, I'm very low, and death is on me dwelling.
So definitely a dark song. It's she's describing this experience of this man coming to terms with his death essentially, and just notice how the storyteller, the singer, is literally interacting with the other characters in the song. So when we hear ballads today in popular music, they're usually this slowed down, kind of generalized type of music that anyone could relate to. And in this case, this particular ballad is a very specific story that mirrors somebody's specific everyday experience.